Welcome to another Cygilant webinar. My name is Joe Murphy, marketing over here at Cygilant. We have a great one in store for you today, and with me as always is Dr. Ben Harrison. He's our VP of Global Security Operations. We have our friends at LogPoint today, represented by Jake McCabe, Pre-Sales Director. And we have a very special guest for you today as well, Sherry, who is the Information Security Officer at Fitchburg State University, which is located here in Massachusetts. So thanks again for joining everybody, and let's have some fun talking about SIEMs. So first things first, we'd like to kick it off with a little story, a little real world scenario for you all from our very special guest, Sherry. Hopefully some people in the audience will be able to relate to her situation. Sherry, do you mind telling the audience at a high level, what brought you to the point where you decided it was time to bring a SIEM into Fitchburg State, as well as an MSSP around it?
I can. Thank you very much for asking me to join you today.
You're welcome.
Fitchburg State is a medium-sized state institution in Massachusetts and part of a big system that encompasses a lot of community colleges, state universities, and then the University of Massachusetts. And about 10 years ago, we were all launched into a security awareness kind of campaign that was initiated by the state, where we all had to have security officers, and I got that lucky assignment because I had the experience of being the antivirus manager here at Fitchburg State, which certainly qualified me for being a security officer. We won't go any further than that, but I'll tell you at the time that I was very inexperienced, and that my first foray into that was to try to get an initial PCI audit that didn't count for anything. It was going to be a test audit. And the auditors that came into Fitchburg State to conduct the audit found that we had antivirus, and that was about all. So we, for the next year, started going through the process of trying to make our security portfolio a little bit more fleshed out. And I know at the time that I was told that a SIEM product might be a good thing to do, and I looked at it and said, okay, we can't afford that right now. We looked at some other SIEM products, Logarithm, Splunk, Rapid7, I think were the big ones at the time, and they were very dauntingly expensive, and we said, okay, we'll do that later. So basically about 7 years ago, when the PCI standards changed a little bit and the SIEM product was going to be required, I was able to convince my boss, and he was able to convince our president, that we needed to go seriously looking at a SIEM product. At the time, I was also a member of a higher ed Information Security Council that was all the higher ed institutions in Massachusetts, and then some others as well. And one day we had UMass came in and gave us a little introduction to EIQ, which was the precursor to Cygilant. And the story starts there. We looked at it. We were kind of a consortium of people looking to do the same thing, because we all had to face our PCI audits. We decided that EIQ was by far the most value that we would get from for our money for a SIEM, because it had great pricing, a really simple to use console that we could see through the demonstrations we saw at UMass meetings, and many of us bought in. And at the time, I was it for Fitchburg State's security department, except for my CIO, who would help, make sure that we had the funding that we needed to do what I wanted to do. And so he said to me, you sure you can manage this? And I said, no, I don't know. And then we proceeded to go on and look at the time, the SOC team, the MSSP that was being offered at the same time a SIEM product was coming along. And that is my beginning. I could not have done it without the SOC team. They provided incredible value for me as a one-person shop, and that's basically how it all began.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sherry. I'm sure you're not alone feeling that way, being a smaller IT team. It's very common these days. So let's dive in a little bit further into some things that can help influence your buying decision. So setting yourself up for success early on is key. And Ben, I'll pass it over to you. you want to dive into some top considerations for evaluating a SIEM from your perspective?
Sure. Well, for me, my needs were the ability to work in a very mixed environment. So we are Macintosh, Linux, and Microsoft plentiful here at Fitchburg State. My CIO and I kind of like the idea of having a broad variety of portfolio items. So we like to look at things that might be, in his philosophy, it's what this vendor misses, maybe that vendor will catch. And so we were looking to try to diversify from what we had. We needed to know that we could kind of depend upon the SOC team or a team to help us with keeping track of everything, to try to keep us organized. And we also needed to experiment a little bit with what kind of logs we were going to be trying to attach to our portfolio. Like, what were we looking at? And we need help to try to figure out what that should be. So I'd say it's, what can be collected by this vendor? What can they provide as a service? And basically, can they operate in a crazy environment where somebody likes a little bit of everything and every kind of vendor that's out there? I think that's basically how it starts.
Yeah, I mean, no two environments are the same, and the same can be said for SIEM technologies. Ben, let's pass it over to you.
Sure, and Sharita, again, thanks for joining us on this. It was great talking to you in our prep sessions and putting a face to a name. Your story is quite common. It's very common. And the way I look at it from an MSSP provider is sort of in two tracks. And the first of which is, what does the customer need? Second of which is, what do we as an MSSP need? But I'll push that one to a later slide. And the story you're telling is, again, it's a story told again and again and again. And as I see it more and more, I try to frame it in my own head in this way. I try to think of it like, what do you want to do with your SIEM? What are the use cases? And that always at the start, what are the use cases? And in your case, that started from the state has helpfully decided that we need to radically change how we do business. We now need to have certifications we didn't used to have before, and they've given us, as they usually do, no time to get these things implemented. And that's a common use case. It happens all the time, particularly recently with HIPAA. We've seen a huge amount of that. PCI with the new versions continually evolving, pulling more and more organizations, companies, businesses, and academic institutions into their scope. So the number one question I always ask is, what is it what problem are you trying to solve? What compliance are you trying to do? What are your use cases? And that can be as simple as, we just need to keep our logs in one place. Or it can be as complex as, we need a full managed service which can help us do investigations. When someone clicks a link they shouldn't and do put their hands up and say, yep, I did the bad thing, now help. Someone there to do the investigations and look into that, someone to look at your ongoing alerts. Again, it's really understanding what it is you want to do. And then off the back of that, when you've decided, or whenever that's clear, what do you want to collect? And as you've rightly said, a lot of houses are very mixed. Mac, Linux, Windows, before you start talking about all the custom pieces of hardware out there for networking, management support, both the very low cost switches, which maybe aren't that well supported, through to Cisco, Fortinet, those sorts. And from that, you start to build a picture. You start to build a picture of what you want to get from it, what you need to pull things from, and how you bring that together into your architecture. And then you can start to ask yourself questions about, well, am I required to be on site? Am I required to be in the cloud? Maybe you have very specific and unique uptime requirements. Maybe you have 5 nines uptime, contractual obligations from distributors or suppliers and so on and so forth. And from that perspective, you need to understand, where do you want to site this? What architecture do you want to look at? Distributed, centralized, cloud, on-prem, managed cloud, hybrid cloud. These are all just words, but they relate to things. They relate to, what do you want to achieve? How do you need to achieve it? And then your environment. So collecting sources is certainly one part, and that's been the core of the business. That's been the core of the SIEM technology. But as we start to look at, as we move into the future, it's not just what can I collect from, it's what can I collect from? What can I go and interrogate for more? And then what can I orchestrate and automate to do other things? And that brings us forward into the future from just a collection through into full SOAR. So we've got orchestration, automation, response type capabilities in there as well. And then that allows you to do a lot more, because now you're not just looking at the logs that come from your firewall and I hope that you get a hit on a malware list. You're now saying, well, hang on, I've got endpoint protection, I've got malware protection, I've got patch management, I've lots of different sources. So will my SIEM cross-correlate? Will it let me look at all of those together? Will it give me warnings that touch across all of my technologies, not just tell me someone did a bad thing in one stack? And so all of that comes into the question. And stepping from there, you need to consider that once the perfect option's on the table, you know what you're looking for, you know what it collects from, you know what capabilities there are, you know what you're going to use it for. How much work is it for you? And one of the things, Sherry, which you were very complimentary of, was just how clean our interface is. And it's a bit of a trade-off between complexity and featurefulness. We think we've got the balance about right, and our partners at LogPoint, I'm happy to say I'm happy that their product does what I need it to and gets that balance right as well. But you need to consider this as part of your buying process. How much work is it going to be for you to set it up? Is it going to take 12 weeks training for all your staff, or is it going to take 2 hours on a self-paced learning session? How long is it going to take to push it into your existing technologies, to integrate it with everything? And how much effort is it then associated once you've connected all the sources with tuning that? I mean, no SIEM goes without tuning. You need to be able to turn the volume to the right level to get the right value of security, and also to keep your storage under a reasonable cap. While I'd love to say everything is unlimited, and in the cloud it can be, the reality is we're still talking about computers and we're still talking about hard disks. And so it's really important to manage your logs at every level and do that. And then finally, operationally, so you know what it takes to install it, you know what it is you're looking for, what capabilities, but how does it fit with your current workflows? If you currently have a fantastic cybersecurity program that's been built up over 15 or 20 years with a core team of experts, does this fit with it? Or is this like throwing it out and starting again? So how much effort is it for you to take this into your operation and then run with it? How much effort per week, per day, per month? How many alerts is it going to generate? I use the analogy on our prep call. If a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make any sound? But the reality is that if a SIEM fires an alert and no one's there to read it, you probably still have a security incident. And if no one's reading those, when you come back to your forest, there will be nothing but fallen trees and breaches everywhere. So you do need to monitor these things. And again, that's part of what Cygilant adds as a service, is that we can take that volume and only escalate the things which are relevant and the things which are important. I could talk forever, and Joe, you haven't pushed the stop talking button yet, but I'm looking for it. So I think at that point I'm passing over to Jake for your thoughts from LogPoint.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Ben, and thanks, Sherry. And I guess just a couple points that I'll add is, first of all, Sherry, you implied almost that you're being in the position that you're in, responsible for the SIEM for Fitchburg State is almost accidental. But what I would say is, certainly, you definitely, you demonstrated a certain degree of security maturity just in your approach to this. What we see a lot of times, and what I think can be a challenge is that we see a lot of folks that know that they need a SIEM, but that's the extent of it. So that they don't really know what they want to do with the SIEM beyond that. They know that they need to buy one. Maybe it's to check a box for a compliance requirement. Maybe it's because they had an assessment that says, you really should have a SIEM. But beyond that, they really haven't given any thought into what they want to do as far as use cases. So certainly the fact that you mentioned that you realize that that's something you need to figure out is impressive. Certainly, as someone who didn't really have experience in this background. The other thing that I will say, Ben, to touch on something that you said, and certainly I'm coming from the product side of this, and so of course we always want to say that our product is easy to use and easy to administer, and it's so simple that that almost anyone can use it. But the reality is that a SIEM is not a set and forget type of tool. So there's really no SIEM in the world that you can just basically buy, turn it on, and expect that it's just going to give you value without putting time into it. And so certainly the recognition that there is going to be some time that's associated with setting it up properly, with tuning it, and then certainly there's ongoing maintenance of it. So there's making sure content is updated with the ever-evolving threat landscape, and certainly making sure that that changes are made as your environment changes. And that's really just from an administration standpoint. And then of course, what a SIEM does is is ultimately you can think of a SIEM as really, it's a big funnel. And so you put a lot of information in the top of it. And ideally, you have a small manageable drip that comes out of it. In a perfect world, if the SIEM is configured and tuned properly, what comes out of that drip is the most important thing that you should look at that moment. There's a lot of configuration, tuning, and maintenance that goes into that. And then of course, do you in fact have the staff to look at what comes out of the SIEM? I mean, typically it's something that the goal of the SIEM is to give you as much information, as much situational awareness as possible, but ultimately there's typically some additional investigation that needs to take place, and the question is, do you have in fact the staff to do that? And so I agree with what was said from Ben and Sherry, and would just reiterate that certainly use cases are very important, and just recognizing the fact that that it's not a set and forget type of tool.
I love how you say that, Jake. It's not a set and forget thing. This is a perfect segue, I think, Jake. Talk a little bit more about the LogPoint SIEM from your perspective as the pre-sales director at LogPoint. You want to tell the audience a little bit more about what LogPoint is? Yeah,
sure. So in terms of what you look for in a SIEM, of course, the first two questions, and they go hand in hand, are what are you looking to collect data from? Where are you looking to collect data from? And then what are your use cases? And often it's difficult to say which one comes before the other, because the use cases will drive what data you need, and it's almost a chicken and egg problem. But beyond that, once you kind of realize what that is, then you have questions about, like, what does your architecture look like? Is this something that needs to go on-prem? Are you a cloud-first environment where everything goes in the cloud? And presumably, is there some degree of hybrid, architecture involved, where you have some things in the cloud and some things on-prem? So certainly, understanding architecture and the degree to which a solution is flexible is important. You want to have an understanding of what the level of effort is for deployments, and is this something where are you going to have to maintain the operating system and install software on top of it, or is it come packaged as a hardened appliance? What is it going to take to handle licensing? Are you going to need to deal with doing some kind of sophisticated calculation in terms of how much this is going to cost you, or is it simplified? And then of course, ease of use from the perspective of an analyst, from an administrator. Do you need to log into? Do you have to maintain a separate program for administration versus what an analyst would use? Beyond that, you certainly want to understand about the analytics themselves. So this is actually where the power of the SIEM itself comes. Does the SIEM have a lot of out-of-box content, or is it reliant upon you to actually create the content or create the analytics that are going to detect threats? And then of course, do you have so certainly most SIEMs will have some types of kind of out-of-the-box content or detections that it can make, but do you also have the ability to customize it? Can you build your own detections? Can you build your own reports? That's important as well. I think you want to consider whether there's some type of framework alignment that should be appropriate. Does your organization adhere to NIST or ISO? Are you trying to implement the MITRE ATT&CK framework, for example? And having an understanding as to whether the solution supports those frameworks, or in fact actually is aligned with them, is important. Reporting capabilities are also very important as well. Do you have the ability to generate, the type of reports that you need within the solution, or does it rely on some third-party reporting tool as well? And then, of course, I would say you'd want to consider market acceptance. Has this tool been, has it been validated by the market? Has it been validated by analysts? Are there customer references that you can point to that would speak to that? And then, I guess, like, what is the focus of the manufacturer of that product? Are they dedicated to SIEM and situational awareness, or are they is it more of a platform play, and this solution just kind of fits into that piece of the puzzle? And so, those are some of the things that I would say are considerations when you're looking at different options for SIEM. And of course, that's just focused on the product itself. And I guess, Ben, I would turn it over to you to see if you have any thoughts about, what would be considerations from a MSSP standpoint.
Sure. I said before that you can almost split the needs of an MSSP from the needs of the customer. Now they're very entwined, but they are separate. So when I speak as a customer, we're giving advice on best practices, use cases, and what it is our customers should implement to best protect themselves. But from an MSSP perspective, I have a list of back-end requirements that I also look for, and these aren't essential for customers, but what they do is they allow us to provide a more effective, more efficient service. So you might not see the direct benefit of these sorts of features, but what you do see is the outcomes of those. You see more awareness, you see more security value, you see better return on the time you spend with the system, and also better return on your investment in a partner. And just to give an insight into what those are, so ease of integration, not just from the customer perspective, but how easy it is for us to integrate our current systems, what the APIs are like, what the documentation is like, what onboarding processes, how mature they are, and what maintenance looks like. I mean, do you have to patch it every 2 days or every 3 days, or is it on a pretty regular 3-monthly patch cycle with plenty of notice? All of those things really play into it. And the visibility we have of those really speaks then to how efficiently we can operate that. Speaking of other vendors, Jake, obviously not LogPoint. I like the LogPoint release notes because they tell us literally almost every line of code that has changed. So I know everything that's changing in a release. Some other incumbent vendors have occasionally just released an update saying, made improvements to UI. And you go, well, okay, thank you, that's good. But which ones, where, and what screens does it change? Which of my customer documentation pages do I now need to go and update? So all of these things come to play about the efficiency of how efficiently we can operate. Hosting, scaling costs, where that goes to. So if a customer joins us as a fledgling startup looking for 250 gig or 500 gig as an entry level, where's their upgrade path? If they have very ambitious growth targets, if they're going to double in size every year and we want to stay a partner with them as that moves, is there a path for them? Is there a path as they move from hybrid cloud to full cloud of their own, or as they move and transition between on-prem cloud and hybrid cloud? How does that look in the long term? And can we continue to service the customer? That's absolutely critical. Then sort of SaaS features as well. I look at things like from a security operations perspective, for us, it's about volume and scale. So per customer, they may be generating 40 solid relevant alarms per customer per week, and we'll do our investigations in each of those. But the ability for us to notice trends between customers is really important. And I don't need to look far back for an example. Hafnium Group gave us a perfect example just Friday week ago, where they started or were found to be exploiting the 0-day and Microsoft Exchange. And it was interesting for us because the features we have within LogPoint Director would allow us to look across the whole customer base. And that means we can start to see trends as an MSSP and get a head start on some customers, because one customer's been hit by something, we now know to look for that on other customers, and that gives a real advantage in terms of scalability. Threat hunting support, doing a search every time someone clicks a phishing link. Yep, that's critical. Need to keep on top of those. But it is very, very valuable to do active threat hunts within environments. And it's something we certainly strive to do for our customers, is to look for the things that you don't look for the odd cases, look for the other valuable security learning you can have. Advanced detection and automation. We talked a little about automation at the start, but how much of the click tax can I remove? I mean, do I need to click through 10 different screens to find a piece of info, or is it dynamically linked the whole way through? So a single click just takes me to the next natural step of my investigation. And then how can I automate that in line with my other tools? Now, fundamentally, customers start and stay with Cygilant for the additional value we add, but that's up to me running a SOC to make sure that the repetitive, boring, mandrolic work is automated out so that my guys can spend their time focused on finding that security value, finding the compromises, finding the opportunities to develop and improve. And that all comes down to how flexible the tooling platform is for us to integrate at that kind of level. So hopefully that gives a bit of insight into the other decisions that come from an MSSP perspective. Joe, I've just noticed we have a question.
Yep, I see that.
We answer it live.
No, let's answer it live. So
Sure.
we have a question from Natalie. So what best practices in choosing which logs and level of logging requirements to get the best out of a SIEM? This reminds me of the conversation that we had on our
I was
practice
smiling at
session.
that question too.
Sherry's laughing. Yeah.
Go
So-
for everything. No.
Well, I like to do things in threes, and the three things that jump out to me first in equal order are: what's your risks? I mean, what are your risks? You need to understand your risks to understand which logs will potentially have most value. Bring us on to number two, value. What's the value in a log? How much value is that going to give you? And then number three is volume. So, for example, I would, from a security perspective, absolutely love to have the full database transaction logs, the full application logs from every single endpoint, from every single database server. But the reality is those logs are extremely big, and you're looking for a needle in a haystack without a magnet at that point. It's just the volume is so big, so there's low return on investment. So from a risk perspective, it's what are your risks? Then from a volume perspective and a value perspective, which of those risks are serviced by what log types? And then from a volume perspective, tune it until you get the right level for both storage and analysis without going through hundreds of terabytes a month. I think hopefully that sort of answers the question.
Thank you, Ben. And folks, please use the Q&A feature. We have a section at the end to answer questions. So if you have any questions, throw them in there. We'll answer them live if we can. If not, we'll save them for the end. Real quick on this slide, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong. LogPoint has been in the visionary quadrant for Gartner for the past 2 years, right?
Yes, for the past two Gartner releases, and so that time might be actually a little bit more than 2 years, but yes.
And congratulations to you all on that. And
you.
out of the box capabilities. So Sherry, your experience, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we set you up with LogPoint.
Mhm.
I believe the only thing that we weren't able to collect from off the bat was what, like a McAfee antivirus.
Yep, I think that was all in it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that we couldn't get right out of the box.
That's incredible.
You know, it's kind of interesting because I was thinking about this yesterday and how we grew to get LogPoint, you know, going from Cygilant to LogPoint. And it was interesting because I realized one of the things we didn't talk about yesterday is the growth of Fitchburg State. You know,
Oh,
I have actually now, of course, gotten my certifications, got several of them, and I have a new employee, and we both have various certifications in security. And then, you know, our network guys and our server administrators have asked us questions about what we've seen in logs. And so our whole environment from the standpoint of end users who benefit from the SIEM product has grown exponentially. So there's probably more like 6 of us now who have some interest in what's going on with the logs on a weekly basis or ask questions about what's been there. And serendipitously, I think Cygilant has been growing kind of at the same rate we have. It's been kind of an interesting thing because just at the point where we were starting to question whether or not we needed a different product, my rep called and said, "Have you looked at this at LogPoint?" And I said, "No, what's that?" And, you know, went and did a little bit of research and then indicated our interest in taking a look at it. And, you know, just from the standpoint of the difference between even the user and machine behavior that's available in the reports and alerts that we get now compared to what we had before are kind of starting to meet the needs that were expressed by some of the other people in my department, in my IT department, that were wondering about things. And I think it's something that our discussion yesterday made me think about it. You know, we were so excited to see that we could share all the information that people were asking of us in our own department based on what we were seeing in these new logs and some of the new things that have been happening. And it's been the benefit is that the transition was almost seamless. Clearly, we had to put in a little bit of work, but it was not like the first time, even though the first time wasn't all that bad either. And Natalie, I will be honest and tell you, I was one of those people who wanted to collect everything. It was a very enlightening experience, but thank goodness for the experience because now I knew kind of where to go in what kinds of things we were looking for and how to express it to the other people in my department. So, you know, with our growing needs and with everybody who looks at Cygilant for information and valuable information, LogPoint became a real sigh of relief. I really think we were at that point where our growth was expanding and we didn't know if we could get what we needed to get out of this product. And that came along exactly at the right time. It was a real serendipity. So the ease with which it integrated into what we had already been doing, the expansion of what it allows us to see, especially from more behavioral kinds of things that we were looking to see. The fact that we've gotten so many more products, we've got Umbrella and we've got, new firewalls, we've got web application firewalls, we have all kinds of stuff we didn't have at the beginning. It provides all different kinds of logs. The desire to keep these logs for extended amounts of time, which means now we have that cloud option. We're sticking to our on-prem for the moment, but we're rapidly seeing that there's value in expanding that so that we can keep a little bit more of what we've been seeing. It's just, I think you guys aren't excited enough in your description about this because it's really been a real lifesaver for us here at Fitchburg State. And I'm so happy that it came out exactly around the time we needed to look at what we could do to expand our resources with the SIEM product. So, our new team that is working with us bi-weekly, we just got off the phone yesterday morning, kind of going through some of the things that are new that we're seeing that we hadn't seen before and whether or not they're real. And, the whole experience has just been fantastic. And the growth, the simultaneousness of our growth has been so valuable to us. And I can't really speak more highly. It's just been a great experience. So yay, LogPoint. Keep it coming.
That's one of the things as a service provider, speaking for Cygilant, to see our customers able to scale alongside us is just unbelievable, right? So Sherry, congratulations to the growth of your university. I know you guys have almost tripled in size since we partnered, and that's awesome.
Yep. And our portfolio of stuff has tripled in size, and the people that are knowledgeable about it has really made the big difference. It's like more people asking questions we need to answer. So it's been awesome.
Jake, we have a question for you. Let's answer it very quick because we got to move along here. Is LogPoint a hosted cloud solution or is it an on-prem solution?
So LogPoint is flexible in that regard. So it can be installed on-prem or in the cloud.
Awesome, cool. Yep. Hope that answered your question, John. All right, so Ben, question for you. How important is the vendor's vision when it comes to evaluating technology from your point of view?
Critical, absolutely critical. The reason is that I started to talk about the security journey that we're on with our customers, and everyone's vision needs to be going the same way. And so when I come to think about some security vendors, very heavy product security vendors, they lose sight of what it was they were or what it was made them great. And they start to waver and they start to get distracted by shiny things on the horizon. And before you realize that they're trying to go in 5 different directions at once, and they maybe can't get out of their own way. And that's a real risk. And a lot of the features or things which might be being added aren't actually relevant to the quality of the SIEM as a SIEM. They're not relevant to the value it brings to an organization. They may have value in niches. They may have value in sort of a more broad product offering, but as far as the SIEM goes, they don't enhance it. And sometimes I've seen that it causes the vendor to shy away from what their SIEM's supposed to do, and they get distracted by it. So maybe a SIEM vendor who starts to offer vulnerability management, patch management, asset scanning, endpoint protection, and a lot of other bespoke things, all of those put together, okay, good. And I like security product. I'm very passionate about pushing the boundaries, but everyone's got to pick their battles. And you need to be careful you're not fighting too many battles on too many fronts. And so some of those features I've seen other products start to get diluted by. They lose their core vision. They don't complement the core SIEM. And as a result, it starts to suffer. The core SIEM starts to suffer. You start to see less and less focus on it as time goes on. And long-term bugs start to creep in, feature requests don't get delivered, and new and evolutionary product features for SIEM don't get put in place. And that's something which I think the next slide we talk a little about some of the stuff that I really like about that from LogPoint's perspective.
So transition here, Ben.
Oh, right, okay, brilliant. Well, I've lost my notes in the previous one now, but yeah, so fundamentally this means that LogPoint, in my experience with Jake and your team, has always been that you guys are focused on being the best SIEM. That's your vision. and that hasn't wavered. And so there's great additional features like UEBA, the advanced analytics engine, and the advanced threat hunting platforms that you guys have in the pipeline. Those are SIEM features. They're not other products bolted on the side of a SIEM. And that's absolutely critical to me. It demonstrates to me that you guys are focused and as passionate about security as I am. And that's what I need as a tool set to deliver for my customers. So that's absolutely perfect. And jump into this slide, some of the things that I really like are that the parsers, the ingestion, normalizers, and tagging. So that's all of the ingestion stuff. Sherry, like you'd said, out of the box, everything except just one thing wasn't supported. Everything else was. And I think I'm correct in saying that support for that McAfee product was in 2 weeks later.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, it didn't take long. I mean, anything we've thrown at you for something that's really just specific to us has been easily integrated into the whole product. So it's been fine. I mean, you just can't say enough about it. It's just amazing how adaptable everything has been. So
from my perspective, from a security purist perspective, that's the reason that support is so easy to add. And Jake, keep me honest in the technicals here. The reason it's so easy to add is that LogPoint uses a generalized content model for alert content, and that's not universal. Not all SIEMs do that. So in a lot of SIEMs, when you want to write a rule to tell you if something bad's happened, you need to say this log message, this field, this value, send me an alert. But with LogPoint, you can, because of the parsers and normalization, you just have to say, if you get any log message, which is a failed logon, and if you get 100 of those followed by one success, well, that's a brute force. And you don't need to go and write a brute force rule for every type of logon. You just get your tokenization correct at the start, and that generalized content then allows you to write one rule for brute forcing. It allows you to write one element of really powerful security content that covers so much of the base area, and that's absolutely invaluable because it lets us, from a security perspective, spend less time micromanaging thousands of iterations of rules just to say if someone fails to log on a lot of times and then logs on once successfully. Maybe want to look at that. So it's very, very powerful from that perspective, and your guys are constantly on it. That's bundling new libraries, that's writing new content. So when we worked with you guys around SolarWinds, we worked with you guys around the 0 day for Exchange, getting the new content out there and making sure the latest and greatest security products and other platform products are supported. That's been something that I've had nothing but praise to say about, is just how quick we can get your guys on that and how quickly you respond to those sorts of requests. It's really good. And digging into that, I mean, it comes down to, as an organization, I like working with LogPoint because well, as you know, Jake, the founder, Søren, has maybe stupidly given me his mobile number, and that's very powerful. And he's encouraged me, call me anytime. And that's great. We have our checkpoints twice a week with you guys. And the amount of recognition that LogPoints gets, as you mentioned already, you've been in the Gartner Visionary quarter, and I think you're in 2 other quarters as well. Maybe you can get away with one, but no, you don't get 3 unless you really deserve it. And then the credibility that brings along with the positive feedback. So we're very happy with the relationship, and certainly positive feedback from all directions. So it's been great working with you guys, and really looking forward to continuing it.
It's a good segue into our next slide here. However, I want to address this question from Salah. Jake, this would be for you. So machine learning, right?
Yep.
It's a big factor in SIEMs today. How important is it in the evaluation, and is that integrated into LogPoint, Jake?
So I mean, machine learning certainly can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but I mean, generally, what we're talking about when we say machine learning is the machine learning techniques that are used in the UEBA, the user and entity behavioral analytics. And so I would say that typically, the UEBA is a complementary product to LogPoint. So it's typically the way it works is customers will first kind of buy into the core SIEM, and then they'll realize that they'll take a look at what's available for UEBA and then expand to that. And I would say, due to the nature of what it takes to really give meaningful analytics, which is typically at least 30 days worth of data, oftentimes that's not part of the initial evaluation. So I would say most of our customers first start with the SIEM, and they might do some type of proof of concept or evaluation with the core SIEM, and then they may choose to move forward with with a purchase of the core SIEM and UEBA at the same time, or just start with the core SIEM and then kind of at a later point expand to UEBA. So it's definitely not a requirement. It's something that complements the SIEM nicely. I would say, I mean, what it allows you to do is it allows you to add a greater degree of behavioral techniques to your arsenal of detection capabilities, and really, essentially allows you to kind of elevate your game rather than focusing on, like low-level IOCs. If you can understand your adversaries' behaviors, that kind of makes it harder for them to evade your defenses. So it's something that, like I said, is a nice complement, but it's certainly not a requirement for the SIEM.
Thank you, Jake. All right, folks, so let's move along here. So Cygilant, we are a service organization, and we're committed to providing our customers with only best-of-breed technology. Quick plug for Cygilant. We were recently awarded Company of the Year in the hybrid security category for the Global Awards. So we're very proud of that. There's going to be a press release dropping soon, so keep an eye out for that. But Ben, do you want to, I'll pass it over to you here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the partnership between Cygilant and LogPoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cherie, similar to your story, Cygilant has a story as well. You mentioned already that originally when you engaged, Cygilant was called the IQ Networks, and it's been a journey as we've evolved over that. And it's been a pleasure from the company's perspective to be in contact with you. And I've certainly, I've known you by organization over the past couple of years of working with Cygilant, but it's also great to hear your feedback that what I see from an operational perspective lines up from a customer perspective. And that's really reassuring, and it's really positive for me and my team. But Cygilant's story, so really Cygilant's been operating for about 15 years, and we did have some aging core technologies, and they were right at the time, and they worked at the time. They had the right interface, the right feature set, but sooner or later organizations do need to decide what it is they're going to be, coming back to that importance of vision. And so we made a decision as an organization that we were going to retire our incumbent legacy product for SIEM and then move to LogPoint, because LogPoint had that right collection of features. And moving those products to end of life has been very refreshing. It's been great to be able to work with LogPoint, who shared the vision that we'd started with as an organization 15 years ago, that security and customer security value was the absolute key. And so that brings us to Cygilant's strategy. It is best of breed technology with best in class service. And that allows us to focus on the service elements, and we partner with organizations such as Jake's to deliver that best in breed technology. So it's been one of the more pleasurable partnerships we've had. It's mostly genuinely been reassuring, genuinely been a pleasure to work with you guys and to work with people who have that passion for security and shared vision. So it has been great.
Thanks, Ben. All right, guys, so we're 15 minutes away from 2, so I want to be cautious of time here. Cherie, if you would be so kind as to just, tell a little bit about the audience about, your experience with Cygilant, with LogPoint. That would be great. That might save you some reference calls down the line.
No, it's all right. You can always, and anybody on the call can always call me. I'm happy to act as a reference point. I will speak now. One thing I probably haven't alluded to yet is my overwhelming love of the support services offered by Cygilant and now by LogPoint as well. I have 2 favorite companies in the entire world, and I deal with a whole bunch. I've got security products all over the place. And the thing that makes this company absolutely one of my favorites, one of my 2 favorites, is the dedicated support that I get. So from the very beginning, from when it was EIQ, and I was looking around today for my EIQ sweatshirt, but I don't have it readily available. It must be packed away for the summer or something.
I'll send you a new one.
I've worn it today. Is that, from the beginning, I have had possibly 3 support people altogether in over 7 years. I have never once had to re-explain anything that's going on in my environment to anybody that I get on the phone with twice a week or once every 2 weeks, sorry. They know my environment. They know every server. They know what servers are not acting right. They know why they're not acting right. The support is absolutely unparalleled. And the fact that you get a person by name on the phone with you every 2 weeks is an amazing support model. And it's so rare these days to have that. So if nothing else would sell you on this product, the support that you get would sell you immediately. It is what has kept us loyal customers. It's why, we've grown along with them. As I said, our knowledge has grown, and as our knowledge grows and we need to know more things, we have a really reliable group of people who help us articulate it, answer the questions that we have, troubleshoot the problems we might run into, which are not very often, but it's just been an amazing relationship. And I think in this day and age, relationships are as important as products, and they have been, at least for me. It has helped me grow and learn as a customer and as a support professional. So it's been amazing. And secondly, the intuitive application console. It's easy to figure out for me. I am not the world's greatest technology person. I have a working knowledge of so many things. I just don't get a chance to dive into things as deeply as a person who's pinpointed, my firewall guy is a firewall guy. He looks at it every day. I look at it once a week. But this is easy for me to get in and take a look at when I need to find things. It's been invaluable. And I'll tell you, usually when I'm the one having to go looking, it's because I'm dealing with audits. I have 3 or 4 audits a year, and every single auditor wants me to prove that I have got an outside vendor looking at something, or that I can corroborate and verify that an event has occurred. And I can get in and take that initiative and find it myself, or I can call, or I can email somebody and say, hey, have you seen anything related to this event that I can pull out of the logs and verify some things that I see happening? So it's really the immeasurable benefit of the support and the ease of being able to get in and take a look at data that you need to look at. An intuitive product, and by far the best value of all the ones that I was looking for initially, and then even later, when we were thinking we needed to expand our portfolio a little bit more, the value has been there all along. And that's one of the things I always say when someone gives me a reference call is that, I'm a state institution, I don't have unlimited money, and usually I don't have budgets that grow. So it's been a really great relationship. All through the phases of EIQ to Cygilant to LogPoint have been amazing. And I have been thankful to have had this opportunity to have a really good, basically second batch of employees somewhere that I can deal with and get my work done. So I don't think I can say it any better than that.
Sherry, thank you so much for that. I mean, it's, individuals like yourself that get me out of bed in the morning. It's people helping people at the end of the day. We're in this together. And as a service organization, that's what we're here to do. So that is going to segue us into questions. Looks like one just popped up. Perfect timing. Jake, this one's going to be for you. Does LogPoint have a SaaS model or plan on having one?
So from the standpoint of how our software is actually delivered, it's so we do technically have a SaaS model right now. So basically, the way you purchase LogPoint is based on a subscription model. In terms of whether we have like a cloud hosted version of this, I mean, so right now we can install in the cloud, and we do so with the help of our partners like Cygilant. At some point, we do plan on having a kind of a cloud native version of the product. I expect that would be within the next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
Give some time for some more questions to fly in. And while we wait, just want to remind everyone here today that you can expect a copy of the recording. And if you're interested in a personalized demo of Cygilant, of LogPoint, please reach out. You can visit us online at cygilant.com and simply submit a let's talk, and we'll be in touch with you almost immediately. This was a fun one today, guys. Thank you so much. Sherry, special thanks to you for joining us, taking time out of your day. Jake, it's always nice having you on. And Ben, as always. Oh, we got a question here from Jim. The Cygilant value proposition, a SaaS subscription-based model, includes both software and service. Not a question, but yes. So Cygilant provides a SOC as a service model with best of breed technologies, So you get the best of both worlds. So would highly encourage you to reach out for a personalized demo if you're on the fence looking at, various SIEMs, or you're thinking about bringing in a managed security service. Would love to talk to you and answer any questions that you have. We'll give it about 10 more seconds for some more questions to come in, and then we'll let everyone enjoy the rest of their Thursday. All right. Oh, wait. Question for Sherry. Sherry from Robert. How have you found the value of the CSA in tandem to this best of breed technology?
CSA, what's?
Oh, so you're a cybersecurity advisor. So the
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Too many acronyms in this field, isn't
I
there?
know. Like I'm looking at CSA, and all I can think of is the buying food from a co-op. Sorry about that. The value of the CSA is immeasurable. I mean, really, it's a great. I can't speak more highly, and I'm more than happy. Really, if you need to talk to anybody about it, give me a call, and I'll be happy to tell you more about what's going on. But it's just been incredible.
Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I mean, it does require a certain level of intimacy to understand a network. Like I said, no two networks are the same. We are committed to understanding your network inside and out and working with you along your cybersecurity journey. As our friend Dr. Johnny says, Ben, you don't have to walk your cybersecurity journey alone. We're here for you for anything that you guys need. So with that, again, I'll remind everyone in attendance today, you'll be receiving a copy of the recording. And if you're interested in a personalized demo, please reach out. You can reach out to me personally. My email is jmurphy@cygilant.com, or visit us online at www.cygilant.com. With that, we'll sign off. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Jake. We'll see you guys later.